Um, the deluxe version of the record comes with a remix album.
Oh, it does?
Does it?
I don't know.
I
I don't know.
Record company person?
Well, there's a.
You're doing some remixes, right?
We're doing remixes. I don't know if there's definitely a lot of remixes. I don't know if they're on an album yet. There's the CD. Yeah. Then there's the vinyl. And the vinyl is really nice. It's really pretty. And the vinyl.
I saw a picture of it. It does look good.
And the vinyl, unless I'm mistaken, this is one of the joys of owning my own record company. The vinyl has no text on it.
Oh, well, thanks a lot.
So I think on one of the inner sleeves there might be some information, but it's all just photography. So like the spine, the cover doesn't say my name anywhere. It doesn't say the name of the album. There is a track listing inside, but like I love the idea. The vinyl, I'm really proud of it because I've only seen it designed, and maybe someone screwed up and put my name on it somewhere, but it's like this weird artifact. So you could get it and you could open it up and have no idea who's made it, where it's from, when it was made.
There's that ambiguity again.
Oh boy, it's about as ambiguous as you can get, yeah.
And the photography that goes along with this, I think it's an interesting multidisciplinary approach here, because we have the album, we have the live performances, we will have the remixes, we'll have the different media with CD versus vinyl. And then there's the photography. I didn't realize you were a photography nut since you were a kid.
Since I was 10. I mean, I've basically been doing music and photography for the same amount of time. My uncle had worked at the New York Times, and he would give me his like sort of hand-me-down cast-off equipment. So I started out shooting film and working in the darkroom and developing film and printing. I guess it's only recently I felt comfortable actually showing it to anybody. And so this book, it's a book of pictures taken on tour, but it's a really unconventional book about touring.
I noticed there's a lot of corridor shots.
Lots of emptiness, yeah.
Lots of emptiness, facades of buildings, shots of crowds, you know, obviously. Cityscapes from a lot of long shots.
Yeah, and in the book it's very much about the contrast or juxtaposition between like this intense emptiness of like a long empty hallway, an empty hotel room, and then these environments that are just filled with people, you know, like 75,000 people packed into a space. And what's odd is, for me, the pictures of the crowds are kind of unsettling, and the pictures of the empty environments are quite comforting. But I've showed the book to people, and the exact opposite is true. Like
yeah, I can see that, because you know, if you look at the crowds, these are people that are having the times of their life. I mean, they're screaming, their hands are in the air, they're obviously having a good time at what I'm assuming is a musical event. But then...
No, it's a photo opening. 75,000 people packed into an outdoor stage for an art opening. I'm being facetious. Yeah.
and then you go to the next photo, which is this long curving corridor or long straight corridor, and it's just absolutely empty. And when you juxtapose the two, you know, I can see how some people would say, "Oh man, I'm glad to be away from those people." But then I can also see people who just like, "Man, that's lonely."
Because I was just in Europe, and there was this recurring question when I was doing interviews, people being like, "These pictures, they are so isolating and lonely. Why?" And I was like, to me, they just look like they're empty, but empty in like kind of a nice, comforting way.
Clean, orderly.
Yeah, and like enough room so a man can think. But I guess that's also the product of like, I grew up as an only child, and I live alone and I work alone. So that sense of like emptiness and space is sort of strangely appealing and comforting to me.
Especially after, you know, spending so much time as a performer, as a DJ and everything with people around you everywhere. And sometimes you just need to get away from all that.
Yeah.
And it's that recharging space and time.
Yep.
What are you doing with National Geographic?
National Geographic has this photo series called Music and Photography, or Photography and Music, or something like that. And so they're basically getting musicians who are actually photographers to show their work. So hopefully, I mean, people who are sort of experienced photographers, like Andy Summers from The Police, like people who've been doing photography for a long time. So, and me. So I'm basically going there for a night to the National Geographic Institute and standing on stage with my little PowerPoint presentation and saying, here are some pictures. Let let's talk about them. I don't know how the pictures are going to look blown up that big and projected against a screen. Hopefully they'll look okay.
Finally, I've been doing a lot of writing and talking about alternate revenue streams in the music industry because of CD sales collapsing from what they were 10 years ago, and how people have basically taken the model that you pioneered in the late 90s with licensing tracks for TV shows, movie soundtracks, commercials, whatever. And back when Play came out, a lot of people were pretty critical about that sort of thing.
You're saying that very diplomatically and nicely. Yeah.
Yes, that they were extremely critical.
I was crucified.
Yes.
Figuratively speaking, like no nails and crosses were involved, but like, yeah.
On the way to selling 10 million records. Now, that is a completely honorable, acceptable, and sought after method of making a living. Feel vindicated?
Not really. I mean, yeah, there is a certain sort of like cold comfort in seeing people who used to criticize me now doing the thing for which I was criticized. Like there was this, what was it called? I think it was a music website called The Velvet Rope or something.
Yes.
And nowadays I don't read my own press just because if it's negative it makes me want to jump off the top of a building, so I'd rather not know. I'd rather just assume that everybody likes me, even if I know that's not the case. And but so back in the like 2000, 2001, I would occasionally go on The Velvet Rope, and it was a website for people in the music business, and like they had their knives out for me, you know, like just the vitriol and from the press and just in general that was leveled at me. You know, and I have seen a lot of these same people now, either musicians who criticized me 10 years ago, now they're trying to license their music, or people who worked at record companies who are now working at music licensing companies. I feel neither vindicated nor vindictive. I just hope that people make good records and that they're able to like send their kids to good schools, and you know, if their parents get sick, that they can get health care for their parents, because unfortunately not everywhere is Canada. So far be it from me to criticize or judge how other people comport themselves professionally now.
I remember a very in-depth article, I think it was in Wired magazine, that talked about the way that you and your manager went about marketing the Play record and how successful it was. And they were actually quite, I wouldn't say complimentary, but they were certainly understanding. And
what was weird about that though is, you know, like sometimes hindsight is 20/20. Because when Play came out, the reason we started licensing the music is because I was signed to a small independent label, Mute Records, and Mute had no money, and so they were desperate for money. And the only people who were listening to Play when it was released were music supervisors. You know, it didn't get much radio play, didn't get much MTV support or press support. And so we had all these offers to license the music, and we sort of thought, well, okay, you know, I've made this record that we like, why not try and get people to hear it? But in hindsight, and I can't criticize him for this, but one of my managers at the time, in hindsight, tried to make it seem like there was a strategy. No, there's never any strategy. We had no idea what we're doing. And I still have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but back then it was just like responding to requests and being utterly clueless in the process. Because what I should have done, in hindsight, if I could build a time machine, I would go back and do what the smart musicians do.
Which is?
License music to countries where they don't speak English. You know, like all the cool indie bands, all the people who say, we'll never license our music. Have you been to South Korea recently? Or Portugal or Brazil? And suddenly, cool, credible indie rock band who would never license their music in the UK or the States, you go to South Korea and it's in a tampon commercial. Or you go to, you know, go to Argentina and there's their music selling Red Bull or something. So it's like, that's what the smart people do.
Well, that's like what the celebrities used to do with Japan.
Yeah,
exactly. Go and do, you know, the whiskey commercials or the Seiko commercials.
Yep. So I do love that clever hypocrisy that so many cool musicians have of like being so outraged at the thought of licensing your music and saying you'll never license your music, and then on the other hand, licensing it to the most tawdry stuff in developing world countries.
Got to remember that.
Yeah.
Good thought. Well, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Good luck with the record. I mean, I really like it. Again,
thanks.
when I can't sleep, I will think of you.
I describe it as like a soundtrack to empty cities at 3 o'clock in the morning. So my suggestion, if anyone's willing to do it, is like get in a nice car with a nice stereo system and drive through an empty city at 3 o'clock in the morning. Toronto's perfect for that. I'm going to sound like Grandpa Simpson, but have you seen all these new buildings?
Yeah.
It didn't used to be like this.
No, that's only been in the last 5 years.
I remember like 10 years ago driving in Toronto and like, oh, there's like 4 or 5 tall buildings, and now it's like Hong Kong.
No, we got a Trump building coming in here.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize on behalf of. Did you see Obama's correspondence speech?
Yes, that was
He's
good,
funny.
and of course the Donald was most miffed.
Yeah.
Inappropriate, I believe.
But I loved that, whether to fire Gary Busey or Meatloaf, these are the questions that keep me up at night.
And these are the questions, and the answers are the ones that make me qualified to be president of the United States.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
fascinating. You were here for our election yesterday.
I was.
And do you need any help with that? I mean, I know I saw a tweet saying, people, you've got 3 left-leaning parties. You're dividing the cause.
I mean, I don't live here, so I don't want to be so presumptuous as to speak about Canadian politics. But in a very general sense, unless I'm missing something, it seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like what happened was the right wing kind of coalesced and moved more towards the center a little bit.
Yes.
And the left has fractured and moved more towards the left. And so it just seems like, it just reminds me of in 2000, we had 2 left-wing presidential candidates, Al Gore and Ralph Nader. Mm-hmm. Ralph Nader got just enough of the vote to give the presidency to George Bush.
Right.
So it just seems like sometimes there can be like a pragmatic, realpolitik approach to ideological differences. Like basically the left, maybe they could say, hey, we agree enough to combine our forces. Rather than splitting the vote 3 or 4 ways, say, why don't we try and combine so that we don't have a right-wing parliament?
See, Canadian politics is substantially different than Americans. I mean, you're very polarized. You have the rights, the right wing with the Republicans, left wing with the Democrats, and no mushy middle, at least not in an organized sense. In Canada, we have the Conservatives, who are more like right-wing Democrats rather than Republicans. We have the Liberal Party, which they call themselves the natural governing party of Canada because they occupy that centrist spot, that mushy middle. Then we have, and they would be Democrats in America. Then we have the further left, which is the New Democratic Party, which has definite socialist leanings, and then I guess you'd have the Green Party somewhere out there as well. They're more of a fringe than anything else. So we have the three main parties right now. So already, Canada as a whole is to the left.
Oh yeah.
What happened was that the Socialist Party, the far left, and well, far left for us, had a real surge at the expense of a separatist party that is only in Quebec.
Yeah.
And when the rest of the country saw that there was this possibility of a socialist party getting into power, the right-leaning or the center-right-leaning people in the mushy middle moved all the way to the right. So as a result, the middle, the Liberals, were decimated. They went from like 100 seats down to 20 or something. And the Conservatives managed to get their majority government, so they have a mandate for 4 years to run the government. Meanwhile, the far-left Socialists picked up enough seats to become the official opposition. So we have what would be in America a situation where we have right-wing Democrats in power, and their official nemesis in Congress would be Ralph Nader. That's basically where we are this morning.
Yeah. That's going to work out interestingly.
Yeah, we know. We have no idea what's going to happen.
I mean, luckily though, like there is such a long tradition. There's so much precedent in Canada for pragmatism. You know, like I mean, politically, whether it's I mean, there are, of course, crazy people on the right and crazy people on the left, but just does seem like there's a general tendency here towards like pragmatic moderation, as opposed to like what happens in other countries.
Yeah.
So
It'll stay that way. You know, for example, you know, even though they're the Conservative Party, they're okay with pro-choice. They're okay with same-sex marriage. Which you would never have if the Republicans were in charge. So, you know, there is a certain amount of progressive pragmatism in the country. You know, healthcare. We don't. There is some gun control. There is a gun control thing called the long gun registry, which is absolutely stupid because it cost too much money and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything for crime in the cities. It basically took rifles out of the hands of farmers. Anyway, so it'll sort itself out, and hopefully the economy won't crater.
yeah.
Well, thanks again. This was
my pleasure.
a wonderful conversation. And next time you're around, absolutely come in and let me know about the Vatican Commandos. That would be fun.
Yeah, there will be another show. I mean, we had so much fun doing it that I'd be surprised if we don't do it again sometime.
Okay, good stuff.
Cool.
Thanks.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.